Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Prachi. Hello, everyone. Would be great to see some cameras on while we wait for everyone else to join. We're about to get started with today's webinar. We're going to be talking about social innovation and entrepreneurship through the day, a little bit about our fellowship projects as well. Will be nice to see some faces. Thank you, Harita. Yeah, Ali, Saroj. Great to see some faces. Looking forward to seeing some more as we go. So today we're in conversation with Oishik, who's the co-founder of Avagam, and Alex, who is the program manager at Bhumi. Before we get started, we will be understanding the flow for today and what exactly we're going to be covering and a little bit of ice breaking to get us started. Suneta, are we good to go or do we wait a minute more?
We can start. I think people can come in. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Always have some norms in space, especially in an online meeting with 35 odd people on board and more to come. First is, of course, would be great, bandwidth permitting, if you could all switch on your videos. It's always nice to see some faces while interacting. I think COVID taught us all that. Second, of course, to stay on mute unless, of course, you are asking a question or you're called on by the host so that we can hear our speakers well. Third would be to ask questions, ask a lot of questions. Will be great to have it centered around today's topic, which is the fellow projects, social innovation, entrepreneurship, whatever it is that Alex and Oshik are going to be sharing so that the engagement becomes more meaningful. And of course, in the interest of being respectful and listening to everyone, will be great if we can all use the raise hand feature. You can raise your hand if you have a question that you would like to ask or something to share, and then we will call on you. And we have ample time for Q&A at the end, so no worries about that. This is not so much a norm, but I see some people saying ma'am on chat. Please call us all by our names. I don't think any of us believe in the sir, the ma'am part of it. I prefer to be called Anjali too. All right, we can go on to the next slide, Sunita. A little bit about how the next 40 odd minutes is going to look. We will do a very short overview of the Bhumi Fellowship. What is it that we're currently doing, followed by a quick check in so that we can hear from everyone, including our speakers for the day. Post that, we will move into our interaction with Oshik and Alex for 20 minutes, followed by Q&A, as I mentioned earlier. Talking about the Bhumi Fellowship itself, this all of you might have seen on the website also. Our vision is simple. It is to achieve equitable education for all children through systemic change. And how we are doing this is through our fellows who are the change makers who are working in schools at the moment. They're placed in government aided, and affordable private schools. And the idea is that these fellows become change makers in the long term and lead the next education movement. What is also not mentioned here is that the schools itself become sustainable centers of holistic development, and all our children get an excellent education in the process. We've had 4 cohorts of fellows. We're moving into our 5th cohort, which hopefully will have a lot of you also. We can move ahead, Sunita. Talking a little bit more about how exactly the fellows work and how we are looking to transform schools itself into these sustainable centers of holistic development. What sets us apart, I think, is our whole school transformation approach. For any fellow who's walking into the school, classroom teaching is definitely a big part, but it is just one part of what it is that they're expected to do. The other aspects, as mentioned on the slide, cover community engagement, active parental and community involvement, of course, is key to any child's holistic development, along with actively supporting our school leaders, that is HMs, and also capacity building, which the team is also currently working on. In addition to this, our fellows work very closely with our social and emotional learning team, our Hello team, on teacher professional development. This is, of course, to build a safe school, an inclusive, a happy school where all children have access to a supportive environment where they can learn, and all five competencies of social and emotional learning are covered. More on that, I think later. We won't really touch upon it now. But all of this is definitely what a fellow is expected to do. I think we can stop sharing. Maybe we will do a very short check in. Since today is about social entrepreneurship and innovation, which is again a big part of what a fellow is supposed to do, what I'm curious to hear from everyone is an incident, could be any story where you tried something, could be a success story or a story where you failed, right? But an incident where you tried something. For me personally, when I think about it, I go back to my education. I studied architecture. Oh, for context, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Anjali. I'm a program manager at the Bhumi Fellowship. I started my journey with Bhumi as a fellow and then transitioned to working full time with a fellowship. So, yeah, thinking back to architecture school, I remember taking on a very theoretical project. I wanted to study Haridwar and Rishikesh, and I had a great time. I traveled for, oh, lighting. Okay. I traveled for a few weeks and came back. My project didn't really go anywhere. It started with a bang with dissertation, but thesis I was told this is too theoretical. You're an architect. You need to be building things, or else you can't really be qualified as one. And that's something I always think back on. Okay, I tried something, didn't work out, but definitely something I'd go back and work on. Would love to hear from you all. An incident where you tried something could be a success or a failure story. Maybe Alex or Ishik, you can also share in the meantime.
Hi, can I maybe go ahead?
Yes, please. Can you also introduce yourself before you share?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Prachi Jha, born and brought up in Bhubaneswar, and I'm really glad to have been part of the 2024 cohort. And so, yes, recently, as a part of my thesis, I started working on clean transitioning in India and its probable challenges. So, I was working on this paper, and it got finished recently, and I got a chance to present it in an international conference. So, yeah, that was really a happy moment, and the thought of working on something, creating something. And I also aspire to at some point in my time work in an topic of inclusive school where mainstream children and the specially able children can study together without studying in a bubble. So yeah, this topic is very much closer to my heart today, which we're going to discuss. And yes, I'm having a lot of questions to shoot in. So yeah, that's from my side.
Thank you so much for sharing, Prachi. Quite inspiring. Lovely to have you on board. Requesting others to share on chat also. Feel free to use the chat box in addition to coming off mute and sharing. Oishik, Alex, would one of you like to go?
Okay, I'll go. So I did my fellowship from Teach for India. Then I transitioned to Boom as full-time employee here. So my fellowship also was in the mindset, okay, being an amazing teacher in classroom, I always thought that only one-way delivery of teaching can be the only process in which you can create excellence, right? So that's a mindset I operated with in the initial first year. Second year is when I started my project where we started something called as individualized learning, where I brought a set of people like 13 volunteers where they were mapped to 3 to 4 children. And that's when I know the power of community and also how through mapping and also developing people, how you can see great growth. And I think the topics which even I did not teach, the volunteers taught the students, and there was around like 20 to 30% growth in the whole academic year. I think that is something that shifted my mindset, and also to say that the power of community is something that also came up me being a coach here and also working along closely with the fellows. So this is an incident which shook my mindset also, that only one person can do, but also through a community how you can achieve a similar goal is what I want to share. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Sunatra, if you could take care of back end.
Yeah,
Um,
just looking into it.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, very interesting, right? Even I came into the fellowship with a lot of preconceived notions about what teaching would look like and how exactly I'm going to work with children, but it broke a lot of notions for me. Lovely to hear, Alex. Anyone else who would like to share? You can also share your stories on chat, like I mentioned earlier. Oishik?
Yeah, ma'am. Can I?
Sure, Govind, why not? And post that, we'll come back to Oishik.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone. Myself, Govind Deshmukh. I am from Nagpur, Maharashtra. I want to share my experience. I started one small NGO. That is, it was working for, it is actually failure story, actually, ma'am. So, but I learned a lot of things from there. So, we started one NGO. Name is White Wings Multiple Society. It is specially working for migrant children and migrant youth and migrant women. So, uh, when we started our NGO, we have lots of things to do. But when actually it is running, then we are facing lots of issue because we are not much prepared and no one to guide us. So that time we just started and only the charitable activities we had done there. So now we are running only charitable activities, not doing the long-term benefits to the migrant children or migrant women or migrant youth. But now I'm thinking after this fellowship I can start again and I will do better. Yes.
Thank you for
Thank you, ma'am.
sharing, Govind. They're quite inspiring to hear. In the interest of time, we will move on. Others requesting you to share on chat. Oshik, over to you. Maybe you can also introduce yourself a little bit and then go ahead.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Anjali. Thanks, Govind, Alex, Prachi for sharing. My name is Oishik, and I work with this organization called Avagam Ventures. And my work is with early stage entrepreneurs and ideators, right? So, someone who is coming up with an idea and taking that idea into making that into a project, and eventually that project into an organization, all of that in the social impact space. So I also started my social impact journey with a fellowship, not Bhumi fellowship, but I also did another fellowship called Teach for India. That's when I think I always used to be interested in entrepreneurship as a topic, but I think that's which really helped me, especially in the end of the first year, the second year is when I experimented a lot. I started my own community center. I started my own volunteer circles. So I think that's where, yeah, the sort of bug bit me, and since then I have been in this space. Failure story in our organization, failure is almost like a value, right? When you work with entrepreneurs, failure is super important, or ideators even. Failures is super important because it acts as a feedback loop, because it helps you learn a lot from what you fail. Like Govind was sharing, I'm sure if he has to build another NGO right now, he will implement a lot of his learnings into the new NGO that he creates. So I think, sadly, during my education, I always looked at failing as like such a bad thing that has happened to me and was a taboo topic. But over time, I think I've learned that how important failing actually is, because it helps you learn much more deeply. So a lot of them, I mean, I can go on and on. So no specific story, but I think, yeah, failing as a value, I think, is very important if you are closely interested in starting your own thing. Yeah, Anjali, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Oishik. I think generally as a fellow, also that mindset is very important because that entire fellowship journey is a very steep learning curve for many of us. And even in the classroom, working with stakeholders, there's a lot of trial and error that needs to happen before you actually come up with something concrete, right? Thank you for bringing that up. Alex, a little bit about you, and can you also talk about you have done a fellowship. So, how is this fellowship? How has your experience as a manager been different from the other fellowships that you've been a part of?
Sure. Thanks, Anjali. So myself, Alex. So what difference I think I see around is also I did a teaching fellowship where I experienced how to work closely along with the classroom and also create impact and outcomes in the classroom. I was a Teach for India 2019 fellow. It was a 2-year journey, but also we had the liberty to try different projects and also work in, but it was not a mandated thing, or it was not something we got like immense support from. But what makes the Bhumi Fellowship unique is also the whole school transformation approach, where you're not just working with the classroom, but also you're working with the different stakeholders that circle around the child. When we say different stakeholders, it includes the school headmaster, working closely with them to create, ideate what is the best that we can do for the school, working closely with the teachers, the community, also empowering them into how you can make it more sustainable. One unique part is also what we are discussing today, and I'm excited is about the IQ projects. This is also one thing that makes the fellowship unique, where we have a very unique support system, where we have a process in which it's a 15-month journey. Ashik will be going more into it, where we'll also be mentoring and having one-on-one coaching in terms of how you can approach it, and also how you can make sustainable projects, and also experiencing is that what makes the whole fellowship unique. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and on that note, Oishik, if you can talk a little bit more about what is iCube and how can, yeah, why is this an essential part of the journey? How can a fellow exactly grow through this entire process?
Great. Thanks, Anjali. I'll share a little bit about this. I think just before I start, ICUBE stands for Ideate, Implement, and Innovate. So that's where the idea came from, and this is a project which is an essential part. That's what I feel of the Bhumi Fellowship. Um, I'll just before I jump into what this is, I'll also start with one example that I was sharing. Right, when I was doing the fellowship, I think the bug that I was talking about, once you get a hang of your classroom, the school, the core work that you do in the first year, and typically it takes 6 to 9 months to really get a hang of what you're doing, especially for the ones who have not taught before. Right. So once you get that hang, I think you understand throughout the day that uh, the learning of the child is not just dependent on your teaching capability or the skills that you bring in, but it's a bigger challenge where there are different aspects that's impacting the uh, teaching learning of the student, right? So it's almost like a lab that you are in, and daily you are interacting with different stakeholders like school teachers, parents, community members, and other stakeholders as well, where you get to learn a lot about the different problems in the first 9 months of the fellowship, right? So iCubed is an effort towards solving that, and can we create small projects or pilots towards solving some of those complex challenges, right? So I'll share a few examples in a bit, but as you can see on the screen, it's an essential component during the second year of the fellowship. It's typically a 15 months sort of plan that the Bhumi Fellowship team has, where the after the 9 months of the first year of the fellowship, the first 3 months you will be able to pilot, understand the problem, talk to stakeholders, and really see what is something that is in you are interested in, and something that you want to solve. Some of the topics that you will learn about, and these are just a few examples, but there is a lot that you will be learning by doing, and not just taking a session or taking a workshop, right? There are principles of design thinking, how to really come up with a solid design, and these are values that you will keep alive throughout your life, and not just something that you will be using during the fellowship, right? How do you come up with design thinking? How do you identify a problem, and how do you frame a problem statement, right? Essential project management skills, right? Any job uh, post the fellowship that you go, if you build your own organization, or even if you are, let's say, joining a school as a teacher, whatever that may be, project management becomes essential. I think you learn a lot about problem solving as well, how to really solve a problem, and what are some root causes of a problem, right? It may seem that, okay, this is happening because of this at a surface level, but if once you dig deep, you will understand a lot more about what are some root causes of the problem, and obviously about building solution. I think that's the most exciting for us as well, where you get to really get your hands dirty, implement something, learn from it, and move on. So Netra, if you couldn't go to the next slide, please. So I think a lot of people ask, what's the future of iCube, right? So um, before that, during the 15 months plan, I think obviously the learnings are aspects that I personally also use when I did my fellowship and I did my projects back then. So apart from that, I think there are plenty ways now with Shark Tank, etc., coming into the picture. And maybe the social development incubation or support structure is not as much visible as it is in a Shark Tank. But because I work into the space, I think I can vouch for it and say that there is a lot more sophistication that's coming in into the development space. There are a lot of incubators that's coming up which support you during the early stages. There are a lot of funders, HNIs, philanthropists who are also interested in funding newer ideas. We have seen that a lot during COVID, where every organization had to change their model, tweak their model, do something else. And I think innovation after that has grown exponentially, right? So I think even after you do an IQ project, again, for me, now I'm doing a startup. That sort of bug hit me when I was doing my project as well. And I could, uh, after 6, 7 years of working, I could really start my own company. But yeah, I think you can take your um, project that you do forward as an MOU that you sign with the school, right? As a legacy project that can be conducted by your future fellows as well. Obviously, you can turn it into an NGO. That's another option, that you can register your project, and if you want to scale up, or even if you want to just work in that school as an organization, you can register your NGO. Social enterprises are coming up where there are social organizations, where there are revenue models where people raise. They are a for-profit model. However, they are impacting uh, the social the social aspect of it, right? A lot of organizations like Hak Darshak, if you may have heard of them, in social welfare, that they are working. A lot of them are also coming up. So that's another option for you as well. And then there is this new concept called entrepreneurship, right? Uh, with AI and all of this coming into the picture, I think roles are also not as concrete as it used to be. Now people are looking for more leaders in an organization who can lead verticals and can navigate between chaos. Because especially in early stage folk organization, there's a lot of new things that comes in day in and day out. So I think if I had to talk about this future of it, there are soft aspect like skills that you learn, but there are uh, very relevant examples, even from different fellowships that I've seen, that organization which started as a project have turned into very large organizations into the future with relevant support that is being provided during the thing, right? So, I mean, I'm happy to say that iCube is going to be much more formalized as soon as you join, and you will be provided with a lot of support to be able to actually take forward your organization project as an organization or NGO or whatever that may be. So yeah, that's broadly a little bit about IQ. Sunitra, I think next slide. Yeah. So Alex, why don't you jump in, because you know these projects
Yeah,
closely?
and I will
Yeah.
have to ask you both to keep your responses a little shorter in the interest of time. In the meantime, I'd also request, I think some of you are unmuted right now. It will be great if everyone can mute themselves. Yes, thank you so much. Yes,
Thanks,
Alex,
Anjali.
over to you.
Yeah, so for us also, it has been a journey, right? And the fellowship initially, we started in 2020 with the first cohort. This is our fourth cohort that's currently in the board. I would love to share some examples from the current cohort that really excites me. So as you see in the snapshot, one is about Gina. Gina has been amazing in her project. Like to one of the problems she identified also was to see how school did not have a time for PT period or games or any extracurricular activities, and how the partnership also brought in other organization and also giving weekly basis training onto the students. That is one intervention that Gina has done. Also, over the years, we have been also building on our own expertise. And one thing is also to bring in Avagam and also bring in the platform for iCubed, where we also have a very structured approach in which we can support the fellows more. Also, one of the things that we have been also happy to say is we are also seeing scale in the project. When we see scale in the project, the initial few years we were only limited to the problems that they see in the school and what is that they really want to work in their school, their community, their teachers, or the school leader. But in this year onwards, we even have seen fellows going outside their schools and also working closely with different schools. One of the example is where Dibojit, his vision is also to cultivate the education of how kitchen gardening can be a thing, and then also how planting and how germination happens. Really happy to say he's also working along with 4 different schools, not just working in his own school, also the project being implemented across 4 school is something that's great. You may be also wondering, projects also is from different things. It's like not like specific into one area. Each of the fellows have chosen projects which is also out from what they see as the problem. One of the things is also Sai working closely with service learning in which she had modules created in which this is the walk for plastic, where which the main aim was also creating sustainable education in children on how plastic can be reused, how paper can be made out of wealth. So one thing we have great to see is also how projects are turning into, like as Ashik said, bigger project or maybe becoming on entrepreneurship and also different aspects. And I also believe iCubed is also a platform where we skill develop on certain aspect on how the project that is just a 15-month journey also can lead into entrepreneurship. And also, every project need not be an enterprise, but it is also the skills that the fellow learn in the whole journey. Also, what makes the iCube journey a unique one to be tried on. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. I think like that we have multiple examples as well here. Sunita, if you can just like skim through the next one, and then I'll hand it over. Yeah, Dibojit, I think Alex spoke about it. Any other example there, Sunita? Next one. I think there was another one. Yeah. So another is Mansa's, Parvati and Mansa's wellness and safety education is another project that's ongoing as well. Anjali, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ishik. And thank you, Alex, for that. Speaking about Manasa and Parvati, they are fellows from the 2021 cohort, which is the second cohort of the Bhumi Fellowship. They started off as independent projects, and then they realized that both of them are working on similar aspects and came together to come up with a wellness and safety curriculum for primary school children. Something they found out after a lot of research, like, hey, this does not exist, anywhere out there right now. And that's when they did a lot of research, came up with a curriculum, and now they both have transitioned into working full time at Bhumi and have a curriculum that's being implemented in 10 or 11 schools across Chennai, some of it done by teachers, some of it done by children. So this is a great example, something I feel very proud of personally. We're just 4 years in and we're already getting examples of people taking their projects, turning it into something bigger. Currently, some people are looking at funding for their project, signing MOUs with other organizations, all of which is very exciting and promising, especially with a new cohort coming in. The possibilities just seem bigger at this point in time. Looking at time, we have about 15 minutes to go. So maybe to close out the moderated part, one question that I have, like, all of this seems amazing, right? 15 months, you get to pilot something, you get to try it out in a school context, see it lead to tangible outcomes. What are some kind of challenges that somebody can expect while doing this? If both of you can briefly touch upon it, and we'll move into Q&A post that.
Yeah, I can share one little bit. I think managing time and self is one of the big things that typically I've seen most fellowships when they are running projects. They face that quite a bit. So I would say, I think, although it's a great learning experience, but I think just being aware of how am I planning my time, how am I focusing on this thing and the other. There can be also a general sense of burnout. So I would be conscious about, let's say, taking some time off, just doing some thinking work, taking time to do just more hands-on stuff. So I would say that's one challenge. The other is, I think, some people look at it as a challenge. For some of them, it's exciting. So initial initial days of, for me, it is exciting. And that's why I also work with early stage entrepreneurs. Initial days are very disruptive and complex in nature, right? So someone who doesn't thrive in complexities, for them it might be a little bit of a challenge. However, there are ways to navigate that as well, by focusing on certain aspects and not thinking about the other things. But I think those are the two main things I would say, which comes as a challenge.
Alex, anything you would like to add on? Some things you have seen as a manager, probably.
Yeah. So actually, being in a school, you see multiple problems, right? So we cannot be in the mindset, okay, I see 5 or 10 problems around me. I want to solve all these things. I think that is also a mindset that most of us come in with. The intent of the project is also pick up any one problem that you see more evident on, work towards it. And choosing that itself is like a big thing to also do an analysis on what works, how the stakeholders are, because each school is very unique and also the context is very different. So if you want to work with one set and to also prove that okay, this is happening across schools, it's also a little tough to go ahead with that. The second part is also in terms of how as Oshik also touched upon, and how this journey is also not just uh, focusing on specific challenge. There'll be multiple challenges. It's a 15-month journey. How you also bring in sustainability as a part, because just doing some sessions or just doing some intervention is not that. How you also make the project sustainable even after the fellowship is over, how the school and the stakeholders also build on your project is something that is a usual challenge, to hand over the responsibility out to the stakeholders, like how Manasas and Parvati's project got incorporated into many other schools. How even inside the school and the project that you do, how you sustain such practices is something is actually quite challenging, and also how you convince and also handing it over. It's something, some things I want to add on to the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for pointing that out. I'd also say, since, as I mentioned earlier, teaching is still a big part of it. Sometimes it's easy to get caught into the trap. I'm doing my project, I need to focus all my time and energy into it. But the reality is, we are very accountable to the set of children we are working with. And through the 2 years, we need to give our 100% to them, right? So, how do we kind of balance both a project that can be very exciting, challenging, motivating, draining all at the same time, and also show up every day and ensure that the children are learning, and improving on a day-to-day basis, because that is where a lot of magic can happen, whether the project fails or not, or succeeds or not. I don't know. Coming back to the earlier point of success or failure, it's you get to try something out. How do you make the best of it in the amount of time given to you? We'll pause here. I noticed that before moving into Q&A, Reshma, you had your hand up for a while, so maybe we'll start with you. Would you like to come off mute and ask a question or share whatever it is that you wanted to?
Hi, Anjali. Thank you. Hi, Ashik, Alex, Sunatra, and everyone as co-fellows. I just have one question, which is you mentioned social enterprise. Could you give me an example of two social enterprises that Avagam has, help navigate and also is successfully running now? Could you give me two examples of that, please?
Sure. Um, Lots of them in my mind. So couple of them who we closely currently working with are, one of them is three of them. One is We Do Good. If you can look them up, they are a platform. They're a social We Do Good .org, I think. Then there is India Recycles, that they are working in upcycling and recycling in Ahmedabad. And then there is also another one who works in livelihood called Rozgar Dhaba. So those three top of mind coming to mind. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashik. And if you could share your email ID on the chat, I would
Oh,
appreciate it.
sure.
We can
Thank
do
you.
that. Yeah. So Netra, maybe
And
you can enable chat for everybody again while we move on to Priyanka. Yes, you have your hand raised.
So I would like to know a bit more about this program, right? So I'm sorry I was a bit late to join this call, but anyway, yeah. So this program is a fellowship program, and those who are here, it means that they are selected, or this just an informative program where you are going to start with.
Yeah, this is part of our outreach series, Priyanka. This is for anyone who's part of the selection process, who's already a fellow, or who's just curious to know a little bit more about what we
Uh-huh.
are doing. So I hope
Mm-hmm.
that answers your question.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions that you would like to ask? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no and we'll move on. Anyone else who would like to ask a question, you can either share on chat or come off mute and ask. Yeah, thank you for enabling chat again. And thank you, Oishik. So Oishik's email ID is on chat if anybody would like to reach out to him directly.
One question again here. So Priyanka here again. If we have an idea to open up an NGO, and what I'm getting to know from here is like basically this is the right platform to make it idolize and make it really get into that idea, and this kind of a program will help us to make that idea really working. What I can understand is basically the support which require, right? It do require some kind of a crowdfunding as well. So do we provide these kind of guidelines also? How do we get the volunteers in this full process when we open any NGO and wanted to work for a cause, or it is like an independent sort of a thing which we need to lead and do it by our own sort of a thing?
I'll just touch upon it, Anjali, you can add. So I think Priyanka and to
Mm-hmm.
everyone, I think the purpose of Bhumi Fellowship should not be, I think, starting an NGO. It can be
Mm-hmm.
an additional thing that you do on the side, because the purpose is during the 2 years, you really transform the school, and building a project is one of the ways to arrive at it. It could also mean that you do such a great job at teaching that other classrooms are actually picking up stuff from you. That's also another way of transforming a school. But to answer your question, there are ways that you will be equipped, but it's important to know that at the end of the day, you are leading all of it. And the Bhumi Fellowship is a platform which is going to enable you, but not going to do it for you. Right. So, and even if you in the future you're becoming an entrepreneur, I mean, you will have to do it yourselves only, right? There is no one
Mm-hmm.
who's going
Yeah,
to
makes.
do it for you. But again, in terms of equipping you, yes, there are facilities available, support structures available, which will help you do it better and also get aware of what's happening around.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah,
just
thank
adding
you.
on, Bhumi
Mm-hmm.
at its core is a volunteering organization, right? We have a network of 30,000 plus volunteers across India. So while
Mm-hmm.
doing your project, if you need volunteers, you are free to tap into our volunteer network to mobilize support for volunteers. What I strongly recommend is you have a thriving school community. Please tap into parent networks, alumni networks within the school itself so the project itself becomes more sustainable. The rest of it, yeah, whatever Roishik said, right? Um, I hope that answers your question, Priyanka.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Provide a better insight. Thank you.
Yeah. So Akash has a question on chat. Is knowing Tamil enough since the fellowship is in Tamil Nadu alone? Fellows are required to teach English and maths for primary school children. Considering we are teaching English to children, it would be mandatory to know English. Of course, we will provide support to improve English, irrespective of what level of English you are at. But would be great to have some working understanding of the language itself so that we can teach children effectively. Tamil is not a mandate though. Knowing Tamil would be a bonus definitely while working with stakeholders. But we have a lot of fellows who have come in from West Bengal, Rajasthan, Kerala, many of them who do not speak the language. To be honest, my Tamil wasn't that great itself, but I think I did okay. It's about how you build relationships with people that's more important. We can take one more question. Any other questions that anybody has?
So Anjali, Sanjana has a question. I want to know about the working hours in the 2 years of the fellowship.
Alex, do you like to take that?
Yeah, so there is two parts of it. One is you will be placed in a school, low income private school, a government school. You need to follow the timings, like it will be like a time job from 9 to 5. But we don't, since you also know the fellowship is a holistic where you also work with different stakeholders. So some days you need to maybe have a teacher circle or a teaching training that you can do after the school. So we don't say it's like a fixed hours, because this is also a leadership journey where you also go beyond your comfort zone, also providing your time into planning. It also depends how you plan for the next day. You also will be having a year, 2 year is also a learning and development curve where you have a lot of trainings and different things that happen. So it's not like a set of working hours, but it's also more flexible in terms of exploring yourself, connecting with different people. And when you also come to the project, you need to do a lot of research, talk with different people, connect with different organizations. So all this is beyond your working hours. So it's an exciting journey filled with lots of connects and also knowing more about you. Yeah, I hope it answers. Yeah,
May I
thank you.
add one point here, Anjali? I think maybe I don't know if I should share, but people who are looking for a job, I don't know if any fellowship is good for them. I personally, I mean, I could be an enthusiast, but I used to work from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and I used to catch the last train back home, right? And I did it by choice because I wanted to, like, I saw like that I could any lesson that I would do or any project that I will create, the kind of impact that it could create. And 2 years, to be honest, is nothing. You're just sort of going and coming back, right? I probably were able to impact a handful of children truly, if I had to think back. But yeah, I mean, you will have a day job in terms of a teacher job, but I don't think that's how you should look at any fellowship. Look at it as a way that you are able to change yourself and the work that you're doing. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm guessing you meant 12 a.m. Moishik. I'm not sure. 12 p.m. kind of sends the wrong message that
Sorry,
you're leaving school at
12 a.m.
lunchtime.
The last
Yeah,
train would be at 12,
please
11:30.
don't
No,
leave during lunchtime.
no. Yeah, 12 a.m.
Yeah,
Sorry.
definitely. I think if you want to have a job, you can be a teacher, you can work from 9 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. But if you want to make an impact, you definitely need to stretch yourself in some capacity to make that impact happen. Last question, Prachi. In the meantime, Sunetra, could you please post the details for the application deadline on chat and also our email ID in case anybody wants to reach out to us? Yes, Prachi, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Anjali. Just a small question, like when Oshik started with this idea of avagam. So what was the challenges he probably thought would be, and like how did he eventually walk up to fulfilling those, and all these years of being as a part of social entrepreneur. So how he upskills himself. Like we all know that at times it might become hectic, but yeah, how does he manage to do all of that? So
Thanks,
just
Prachi. Got your question. I think we are also in our early stages. We have not been existent for very long. It's 2.5 years that we are existing. So, I mean, challenges are there every day. But to answer your question, how I motivate myself and where do I seek support, I think Motivation, because I'm very passionate about the cause. I think that is intrinsic. It comes from within. So I'm never really tired that it's a Monday or something like that. But in terms of, I think, just building a community around me, because entrepreneurship can also often be a little lonely in terms of who you are interacting with, because your team sort of is asking for direction from you at all times. So I think I make friends who are also in this kind of a space and are starting their own organization. And my job allows me to do that. I am very inspired by a lot of friends that I have who are also entrepreneurs. So I think even if I don't want to socialize, just pushing myself to really talk to them, hang out with them, understand what are some challenges that they're facing. And in incubators that we work with also, and even your fellowship, you will have a lot of your peers around you. I think that's the biggest source for you to really not get tired.
Thank you so much.
I think even as a fellow that happens. I think another common question people have is, can I do this immediately? I'm fresh out of college. I've just finished my fellowship. Can I really start an organization? But some of the really big organizations that are up and running in the social sector also were started by people who are 23, 24, even younger in some cases. So I think it's definitely possible, and we'll do our best to provide all the support systems we can. Incubators, connections with people, others who have started similar organizations. Connected to that, there's a question on chat also in terms of post fellowship placement, right? We have a pretty structured process for placements. We started our journey quite early this year, in December itself, where we had conversations with our second year fellows on their areas of interest. What is it that they would like to do post the fellowship? And based on that, we're aligning them with organizations in the social sector, some of them to become entrepreneurs, like Oishik mentioned, and for some of them to even be absorbed into Bhumi itself. We have different verticals, one vertical on volunteering, another on education. I myself am an example of this probably. I did my fellowship, came back to Bhumi after Parvati and Manasa also. And then we have 100% placement rate as of now. First two cohorts, everyone is working in different organizations in the social sector, and we're feeling extremely optimistic with our third cohort as well. So yeah, happy to answer any other questions over email if there are any, but we have a very structured process that lasts for about 4 to 5 months, and it starts with all fellows understanding their areas of interest and also with us giving support on resumes, cover letters, anything else that might be required for placements to happen. Thank you, Sunitra, for sharing the application deadline on chat. For anyone who has not applied yet and is interested in doing so, our next deadline is on March 31st. I'm also aware that many of you are already part of the program. Great to see fellows from our 2024 cohort as well. Irrespective of applying, not applying, being a fellow, not being a fellow, Bhumi remains at its core a volunteering organization. We would love to have all of you on board. You're free to come visit us, volunteer, intern with us to understand what exactly we do. Come be a part of the program and then see how it is that you would like to contribute. We will be continuing our webinar series shortly. We've been taking breaks on and off. Our next one is going to happen soon, and we'll have something very interesting lined up then as well. So thank you all so much for your time today. Yeah, wishing everyone in the process all the best. Thank you, Vishik and Alex. Anything you would like
Thank
to say to
you.
close out?
Good luck.
Thank you.
Alex, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I put you on the spot. Sorry about that. Okay, have a great weekend, everyone. See you all soon.
Thank
We'll
you. Thank you,
take all
everyone.
other questions over email in the interest of time. Sunatra, over to you to close out.